Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I am Anarata Bashaliva, along with co-host Dr. Victor Fett, Dr. Katerina Shrey, and our program producer, Professor Larry Sherey. We host a weekly discussion panel on Russia's war on Ukraine with guests from Ukraine, military experts, medical personnel, academics, artists, literary figures, and relief workers. Our panel is recorded and circulated nationally and internationally. We appreciate your comments and feedback. Special thanks to Marshall University Libraries and MUIT for making this weekly event possible. If you are joining us live on Teams, please feel free to use the chat to post any question for our guest. A quick greetings to our viewers in Ukraine from Dr. Katerina Shrey.
Вітаємо наших слухачів в Україні з глибоким покліном. Ми далі свідки вашого страшного терпіння і також вашої великої сили. Дякую вам за вашу участь в нашій тижневій програмі.
Thank you, Katerina. Today's guest will be introduced by Dr. Victor Fett.
Thank you, Anara, and thank you, Katerina. Thank you, everyone. This is 207th weekly meeting of MUkraine group at Marshall University, West Virginia, and we're glad to welcome back our contributor, Dr. Pavel Gol'din from Kiev, Schmalhausen Institute of Zoology, a prominent ecologist, zoologist, and an expert on sea mammals, who will talk to us about the Black Sea and the fate of its ecosystem during this war. Thank you. Dr. Gol'din, microphone is yours.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fett, dear friends. I'm really grateful to you for inviting me again. And today, unfortunately, I should say again several words about our sad updates on the Russia's war and the Black Sea and how it looks from the Black Sea perspective, and what we have both at the Black Sea and in the global ocean. So the next slide, please. The Black Sea is it's an internal marginal sea which is located between 6 countries, among them Turkey, Georgia, Bulgaria, Romania, Ukraine, and unfortunately Russia. And you can see in the middle of the sea there is the Crimean Peninsula, where the Russia's war began from. And here is the core of this war, the beginning of this war, and unfortunately the Black Sea faces the worst in this war for more than 10 years. The next slide, please. While the war is the primary risk for the sea environment and the maritime culture, non-combat activities should be also seen from the war-related perspective. Since some activities might be superficially perceived as civilian activities, but in fact they are serving to the ultimate war purpose, and they are a part of the overall trend of militarization of the region, and that is why the environmental consequences of these superficially civilian actions are also considered by us as some byproducts of the war. And here it should be said that Russia's war created a transnational environmental crisis, since the Black Sea is not at the moon, it's on the Earth's surface. It is globally connected to the global ocean through the Mediterranean Sea, and also it is connected to the major river basins of Europe, namely the Danube, the Dnipro, Don, and other big river catchments, and that is why everything that is going on the Black Sea mutually affects both the global Ocean through the Mediterranean connections and the river catchment basins. The next slide, please. And the risks posed by war, they are multiple, and they include actions by Navy, by aircrafts, and they include blasts both on the water surface and in the air and underwater, missile launches, ruining of landscapes and seascapes, and many kind of other technogenic and military-related disasters. The next slide, please. Here you can see how the missile launch may look like. This is the Russia's Calibre missile launched from a Russia's warship. The next slide, please. Here you can see how the unexploded sea mine may look like. The next slide, please. And this is the space satellite image showing the huge area covered by the fires in the Black Sea coastal area. This area is the Kerch Peninsula, which is the eastern part of the Crimean Peninsula, and the total area covered by fires. These are the images from 2024. They covered more than 1,000 square miles. In fact, a huge area, and it is even more sad because this is the steppe, which is the European analog of North American prairies, and it's one of the largest steppe areas which have been preserved in Europe. That is why the fire on this area have especially disastrous environmental effect. The next slide, please. And a really huge number of marine species have been affected by these military activities, and among them there are fish, birds, and marine mammals. Some of them, like sturgeons, are endemic for the Black Sea area, but other species are also quite rare and protected all over the world at a global scale. That is why the war negatively affects the biodiversity at the global scale, even if it covers only some area in the Eastern Europe. The next slide, please. And what is especially disturbing for me as an expert on marine mammals, that most of the military activities are touching the important marine mammal areas. As you can see, many of them are located in the northern Black Sea, and among them the entire Sea of Azov, which is the most internal marginal sea in the world, still connected with the global ocean, but it's thousands of kilometers from it, and after it there is only land, the land of Eurasia, which stretches over thousands of kilometers. And this Sea of Azov, it is the home of a unique population of the harbor porpoise, the smallest cetacean in the world, and now it is totally occupied by Russians and polluted by the Navy and other military facilities. The next slide, please. Among the war-related events that had the most prominent effect and adverse effect on the environment, there was the result of blowing up the Kakhovka Dam, which Russians did in 2023. As a result of it, a lot of fresh water gone to the Black Sea with all the nutrients dissolved in it, with all the pathogens and so on. and its consequences are still felt by the Black Sea biota. And the next slide, please. And what is especially of, I would say, of our grave concern is that there is the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, the biggest nuclear power plant in Europe and one of the largest in the world, which has been located at the former bank of this Kakhovka Reservoir, which now does not exist, and that is why this nuclear power plant is deprived of water supply. It's now supplied only by local wells, and here you can see how it looks like from a satellite image. So it's very vulnerable. It's now under the highest risk of potential nuclear disaster. The next slide, please. Another example of a war-related activity which might be superficially perceived as a non-combat activity is the construction of the bridge across the Kerch Strait, which has been done by Russians almost 10 years ago. This bridge actually serves their military purposes, and it looked from the first glance like a civilian construction, but in fact this is a military construction, and it was clearly shown as a facility which serves mostly and ultimately for the war. But what is very sad from the environmental or environmentalist perspective, that it is an obstacle for the migration routes of many animal species, including fish and marine mammals, from the Black Sea to the Sea of Azov. And given that the Sea of Azov is the home for many unique populations of animals, this eventually leads them to the brink of extinction. The next slide, please. The more said that this area, the Kerch Strait, which connects the Black Sea and the Sea of Azov, recently became the area of environmental disaster caused by the Russian tankers. As you may know, the main source of Russia's wealth is that they sell their oil and gas and the oil-containing products all over the world using the so-named shadow fleet of tankers, which are registered in some safe havens in unclear places, and where the tankers get the oil from. These are the ports in the Black Sea or the illegally used area of the occupied sea near the Crimean Peninsula. And one of these areas is just in the Kerch Straits. So, and all this enterprise is very risky, not saying dangerous, and then they use old tankers for transferring this oil from the inner Russia to the Sea of Azov and the Black Sea. So two Russian tankers had a disaster a year ago in the December of 2024. The next slide, please. And here you can see the result of this event, a huge amount of heavy fractures of oil discharged to this sea, maybe around 8 or even 9,000 ton, which does not look like an enormous figure, but for the Black Sea, it has been unfortunately the biggest oil spill, the biggest oil-related disaster in its history, because the Black Sea itself is quite small, and for polluting it all, you don't need a lot of oil. The next slide, please. And here you can see the consequences observed at the coast of Ukraine, mostly of the Crimean Peninsula, but also in other regions, as well as in the other Black Sea countries. The oil has been spotted in the coast of Turkey, Georgia, but mostly in the near the Caucasian coast of Russia. The currently Russian cities of Anapa, Novorossiysk, Sudzhuk-Kale, and other cities in the northwestern Caucasus. And this became the disaster of a region-wide scale. The next slide, please. But if it was too little, there was another oil spill caused by the Russian bombardment of Ukrainian ports, including the largest Ukrainian port of Pivdenny. But this oil spill was quite unusual because this was the spill of the sunflower oil stored by Ukraine for export trade. And this sunflower oil covered most part of the northwestern Black Sea, including the whole area of the city of Odessa. And this is what Ukraine never faced in its history, and generally the sunflower oil spills are quite rare in the world, and we are just in the middle of its consequences. The oil spill itself occurred in this December, and actually we do not know how long would be consistent consequences and how deep would be consequences. We are just observing, and actually we are frightened because that's something that we never seen before. And the next slide, please. Fortunately, one of the most sad updates I do have about the issue that Russians detained the prominent Ukrainian marine biologist, my friend and close colleague Leonid Pshenichnov. Leonid Pshenichnov is doing his research on mostly not on the Black Sea, but on the Southern Ocean, the waters of Antarctic. And he is among the most skillful marine researchers who make assessment of marine living resources of the seas around the Antarctic, including, for example, krill. Krill is a crustacean, a kind of shrimp which is harvested by humans, but also it is consumed by big whales, penguins, seals, and other marine vertebrates around the Antarctic, and this is the keystone species for the Antarctic marine ecosystems. In some years there is a lot of krill, and it is more than enough for all whales and humans and penguins there, but in some years its abundance decreases by 1,000,000 times. This is a natural cycle which is driven by environmental cycles, but also probably by climate change. And during these years, it is especially important to preserve krill, to do some conservation measures, to limit its harvest by humans at least, and to have marine protected areas around the Antarctic. And this was Leonid Pshenichnov's job. He provided his reports and assessments about the prospects of krill state and necessity of its protection or harvest in this or that areas and establishing marine protected areas to the international agreement which regulate the harvest in Antarctic. The Russians were angry about this. They said that they want to take as much krill as they want. They said they were against of establishing any kind of marine protected areas because they think the global ocean and the Antarctic and all the globe and space is the area of their interest. And they accused Leonid Pshenichny that he was preventing them to expand their interest onto the Antarctic. And that is why they caught him when he was in Kerch, in Crimea, and detained him. And now he is in prison, and we have no idea how he feels like and what might threaten him. Nothing to say that Leonid Pshenichny is 70 years old, so he's not a very young person, and this all is actually is very disturbing, and I would say it's a matter of grave concern of all the professional community, not only in Ukraine, but also in the global marine biology. Fortunately or unfortunately, that's all from me, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Pavlo. And this is good to hear from you, although you're reporting sad news, but it's important. I hope many will watch this little lecture, and I open the microphone for comments and questions from our live viewers, please.
Yeah, so thank you so much for the information about the plight of the animal world. I think all of us are shocked at what's happened to the scientist Leonid Pshenichny. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. This is truly shocking and terrifying. So I have a very naive question. In the United States, somebody convicted of a nonviolent crime has the chance perhaps to go to a prison that is mostly with nonviolent criminals. In this situation, wherever he's being imprisoned in Russia, is there such a distinction? Are prisoners, political prisoners, or people accused of whatever he's being accused of, are they imprisoned in facilities along with violence criminals, or are there separate prisons for these kind of quote crimes, supposed crimes?
I have no clear idea about how the prison system is organized in Russia, but I have heard that there are so many political prisoners in Crimea now that they have built a special prison for them.
I can't tell if that's, I mean, that's truly sad that there are so many. I guess also like this is, and maybe Victor, maybe you can help with this as well. Like in the United States, if someone goes to prison or is accused of is being detained for civil action, there's sometimes respect from the other inmates, and the other inmates would treat like a political prisoner with respect or kindness and care. Would that like so Victor, help me out here. What I'm trying to ask is this is, to me, this is shocking. This poor man, this scientist who's been faithful to his science and doing his work as a scientist at 70 years old is being imprisoned. I'm wondering, like, not just the detention itself affecting his health and well-being, but how he would be treated by the other prisoners. I'm trying to figure out, like, is there any way would people be sympathetic? Like, oh, you're here because of you spoke the truth. or where people don't care. You're in prison, you're in prison. You're treated badly by the guards, by the authorities. Does it not matter?
I have no comment on this. It depends on situation, of course, on particular prison. But from what we hear across, not just in occupied Crimea, but across Russia proper, a lot of scientists have been detained on false, fake accusations, and just based on foreign correspondence. This is exactly like in old Stalin's time.
Yeah.
You could be accused in spying for corresponding with foreign colleagues. That's unfortunate reality. Which
I know that the ambassador of Australia spoke out against his detention. Somebody did. I think he, as he was headed to the conference in Australia, I think there was an outcry, and I don't know the name of the organization that he was going to, but it's an organization that he regularly meets with and presents with. It's about the krill, that study the krill. The Convention for the Conservation of Antarctic Marine Living Resources. And so, is there anything that we can do? Is there anything like, is there some kind of outcry against this, or is that not going to be effective?
The question is, Pavel, do you know about any petition or letters written by the community, the scientific community, in support of Leonid?
As far as I am aware, there have been several letters, and I believe there should be a recent or maybe upcoming statement from the National Academy of Sciences in the United States.
Okay,
that's safer, because I think anybody there writing letters is also in danger, right? We here in the West are in a safer position to cry out against this, to talk about this. There's no consequences for us, but I would imagine fellow scientists in Ukraine are terrified to speak out on behalf or against this imprisonment.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing this awful news with us. Thank you. It's important. It's important that this be known, that this is happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Katerina. Dr. Deutsch, your question, please.
Hi. Given the extent of ecological damage to the Black Sea, if peace were declared next week, how long would it take to restore that body of water to ecological health? Is that even possible, or is the damage permanent?
I think that the first step in the any kind of post-war planning, which I and many of my colleagues are working on right now, the first step should be an assessment. So I think that I hope that we will be able to give such an answer, or at least a prospect, first of all, after an assessment. Now it is, first, it's mostly not assessed. It is to be assessed. And second, unfortunately, the war is ongoing, and we don't know what else may happen until it ends.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Deutsch. I have a question, meanwhile, technical question, Pavel. Ukraine, I assume, doesn't have its own satellites. So the remote data you're using, are those European data, some agencies sharing? Where the data comes from?
Most of the data I personally operate with, these are freely available data which come from the EU system of Copernicus. And these are, for example, widely used Sentinel data of, I would say, medium size resolution. And this covers most of environmental assessments. There are also some national systems which can be, the data from which can be released on commercial basis, like, for example, Pleiades in France. So generally, it is more or less globalized European-based system of in sharing environmental data.
In the same, thank you. In the same vein, how detailed is the data you can gather from satellites? I mean, which areas cannot be remotely assessed and do require ground assessments?
Actually, it depends not on the area but on the subject. For
Yes.
example, if you want to assess the coverage by fires, the Sentinel data are quite enough. This is very good. They work very well about the changes in vegetation, for example. That is why the botanists can more or less easily count what happens with the desertification, redization of the habitats due to the, for example, due to the processes after blowing up the Kakhovka Dam. So for botanists and landscape ecologists, um, experts on oil pollution, this works excellent. For me, as a vertebrate zoologist who wants to learn more about dolphins, this is definitely not enough. And well, that is why my area of expertise is more sensible, more vulnerable, and it needs better resolution that even commercial satellite platforms can offer. And if you would like to learn more about, for example, the pollution by heavy metals or by explosives and so on, for sure you should go to the ground because you never get this such a data from the satellite platforms. So this all mostly not about the geographical area, but about the field subject of studies.
Thank you.
By the way, Google Earth Pro images, they are might be a bit outdated. You get them over some time lag, but they offer quite a good resolution coverage if needed. And many Ukrainian researchers use them at least for retrospective analysis.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Paula. Other questions and comments, please? We have several people present today, which is good. Please, anyone? Yes, Dr. Smith, please.
Hello, thank you so much for your presentation. It's very far outside my discipline, which is mental health counseling. But your presentation underscores how interconnected we are. I need to care about the krill in the Arctic because it is connected to the mammals, which are connected to humans, which are connected across the globe. We do have to care about these things because we are interconnected. And okay, I'm sorry, I'm going to say a politically insensitive thing. I want so much for our current president to hear this presentation and understand why this is so important, that we're not just talking to hear ourselves talk, that there are real consequences happening, and that a 70-year-old researcher who's been faithful to his craft for many decades is in prison because he cares about the krill. That's crazy. And I don't know how to, it's just a comment that I have. It's not really a question. I just wish there was something more that we could do so that we don't feel just so helpless as we watch this unfold.
Thank you, Carol. I know that there were administrations in the United States which used to care about human rights, and many people of my generation remember this with enthusiasm. Katerina, please.
Carol, I share your feelings. Yeah, this is terrifying. This is terrifying. Yeah, this is terrifying. And You had mentioned your expertise on the dolphin, the smallest cetacean, the smallest dolphin in the world that lives in the Black Sea, right? This is your specific area of expertise? I believe when you spoke with us in October of 22, you shared a little bit about the damage. I think you shared images of the dolphins, of how they're impacted by the explosions in the water and whatnot. Is there an update on the populations of these? Is there a way to measure the population of this dolphin species that you are studying? Do we know that it's gone down? How do we know that it's gone down if it has gone down? There's there been different changes in the behavior of the dolphin? Anything like that that you can share specifically about that species?
There are some interesting trends in the behavior and distribution. What I think that first of all, we should finish our research analysis and draw some conclusions from it. And hopefully the next time we meet, I will be able to release something of our findings.
Thank you.
Thank
In
you.
in principle, so not a scientist, not a scientist. So forgive me if this is a stupid question. Are dolphins such animals that if their area is too dangerous to live, that they can leave and go to the Sea of Azov, or which was that's not good, but go the other way? Can they make their way? Do species like this relocate? For humans, we become refugees. We pick up, we go, we go. Animals, I don't know. Do animals do things like this? Did they flee an
Yeah.
area?
Yes, this is nothing but true. Dolphins may leave an dangerous area and to go to another area. But the next question is what they would meet in the area new for them, because there would be humans which they do not get used to. There would be fishing nets set by these humans, and so on, so on. So, for human refugees, resettling dolphins may also pose some risk at the new place.
Thank you.
Thank you, Katerina. And I have another question, if I may, also related to marine mammals, maybe more educational for our viewers. In Soviet times, Odessa was the base for the infamous or famous Slava, Flotilla Slava, the whale hunting bunch of ships. I just remember from my childhood the fanfares and all the hype that Soviets held around, their own whale hunting flotilla, fleet. What happened to it, and was it, I hope, cancelled, and when?
The whale hunting in Antarctic has been prohibited in 1985.
Mhm.
31 years ago, and now this fleet does not exist, fortunately, and there are plenty of whale skeletons and bones in Odessa and cities around, and you can buy a whale bone or a sperm whale tooth at the flea market in Odessa, which is, by the way, illegal.
So was it really important for Soviets, or was it another global style project? Industrially, what did it even exist for?
I do not know about how profitable it was. But what I can say for sure, this was disastrous from the ecosystem perspective, because Soviet whalers were poachers, and they exterminated the whole populations of large whales in the Antarctic. So this was extremely harmful for nature. But I don't know what it was for the Soviet economy.
I just remembered suddenly this because along with many of my colleagues, we have been working in Soviet times in the nature protection areas, but we never, of course, thought about this type of international or very far away activities as state sponsored poaching, really. But just for the historical interest of our viewers, this was one of the very bizarre stories connected to the area we're talking about and to, unfortunately, to marine mammals. I have another question. What news do you have, if any, from Ascania Nova, one of the largest steppe preserves in occupied zone for 4 years now? Do we know what's going on there?
Unfortunately, I personally do not have fresh news about it, but I believe that some of my colleagues are better informed than me.
Okay. We had one of our colleagues 4 years ago talking about steppe ecosystems just when this famous preserve was first occupied. It's not far from the blown dam of Kakhovka, as I understand.
It's, I believe, around 20 miles or so.
Yes. Please, any more questions or comments for Pavlo? We really appreciate him coming in these conditions from Kiev to us. Fortunately, we have connection. If we have no hands, we will conclude this session for Friday, February 6th. Carol, please. Carol?
Thank you. I just want to say, you may feel like you're just talking into a microphone, and maybe we don't care, but we do care. We care very much about what is happening in Ukraine, and we are trying to do what we can from where we are to bring this awful war to an end and to bring peace back to this area of the world for all creatures, great and small. I just wish we could do more. We do care, and we do pray every night for Ukraine.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And we do donate. We do donate, and we do write, and we do what we can, but it just feels like it's not enough.
Thank you very much. Your help is really important for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gol'din, and we wish you all the strengths, and we pray for you. And Dr. Shrey, please.
Дорогі браття і сестри в Україні, ми зберігаємо вас у наших щоденних думках і молитвах. Нехай милосердний Бог тримає вас у своїй опіці. До наступного тижня прощаємося.
Слава Україні!
Героям
Героям слава!